I'm Grant Broussard. I own a franchise with my wife, Mary Broussard. We're in the Woodlands, Texas, Conroe Woodlands Spring, which is North Houston. I probably met Ray, I don't know, back in 2018, 19, 20. This has been a pretty long journey for us in trying to discover what's a good business, what's a good fit for us. So I think he may have found me on LinkedIn or something like that. He just kind of reached out of nowhere and we got to know each other over time. I've always wanted to work for myself. I've spent a long career working for other people in construction and oil and gas, and realizing that there's always going to be a ceiling. You're always competing against somebody. I mean, you may be able to make a pretty decent living for yourself, but you'll never be able to really get to that level of autonomy and ownership. So I started looking, obviously, something with a lot of investment, something I could do where I could also work and also grow this on the side. So something that required a little bit of hands off. So at first we were looking for something that kind of fit my background, which would be more engineering, construction, something a little more technical. And then we realized that probably the better fit would be something where I could use my background in business development, management, leadership, stuff like that. But also have my wife, Mary, who's an occupational therapist, kind of hone in on her passion where she could truly run it, put herself completely into it, but also I could just provide some guidance on getting systems up, knowing what the dashboard looks like, what sales needs to look like, what marketing needs to look like, just kind of helping that overall picture. So we looked probably at everything from striping parking lots to pool lessons, teaching kids how to swim. Smoothie King was always top of my list, right? Some of them were pipe dreams because we probably never really had that investment for some of it. So we had to hone in on what was right for us. We had to figure out how much time do we each have? How can we financially pull this off, right? We have a family with 3 kids. We have to figure out how we're going to keep our lives going. Do we really have enough time for this? And who is going to do what role as we grow this thing? So after we looked at everything over several years and we kind of had an idea of what the investment looked like, we were able to kind of do some financial forecasts and projections. We realized this was just an absolute no-brainer for us. It was the Seniors Helping Seniors is what we ultimately went with, and it's just a great model for what we need and what we're looking for. A lot's happened since a visit me and Ray were going through our thing, right? Once you get the franchise and you start going, I mean, you're drinking out of a fire hose, everybody said, you're going a million miles an hour. But back then, I mean, every decision point, every piece of the informed decision process was really important to get us to where we are today. If you don't follow it, I wouldn't glaze over it. I would take the informed decision process seriously because it really forces you to deep dive into what can you do? How does it fit into your lifestyle? And how can you actually pull it off? I know for one thing, one instance in particular, we probably would have ended up with the wrong franchise had we hadn't gotten the right guidance. I got really deep into a new one because we were not afraid of kind of starting with a newer startup. I mean, Seniors Helping Seniors is a 25-year model. It's proven, nothing but good reviews from it. But we also I was not afraid to try a startup. And the brand in particular I was looking at was 1-800 Striper. I couldn't even think of the name of it, but we were going down that road probably for 2 or 3 months. And I could not get out of, I got so honed in on financial projections and, doing all the different call-ins. You go through each piece of the puzzle, right? As you're doing the informed decision process, and you go and you discover the marketing, the operations, the softwares, everything you learn how to use. And everything was good. But, our plan and where Ray really redirected me whenever I needed him to is, you put a plan up front. You forget about it. But in September of last year, we put a plan together. And we're going through all the different processes of getting on board with Striper, and we go through discovery day, and you get into November, December, and it's decision-making time. Is this right for you? Do we put it aside? Do we move on? And I wasn't ready to give up on it, but what I was realizing was the plan that we set aside with Ray, we told him how many hours we realistically could do it between myself and Mary. I have to keep my full-time job. Mary is willing to go full-time. But you go and you make all the calls with other franchise owners. They're talking about it's a lot of hours to get started, which is expected. But we were looking for something a little more hands off for me. Well, we kept going. Everything sounded great. We truly believed we would get this thing going. But come December, I realized that it was going to take me personally probably 60 hours a week on top of my full-time job. And I wasn't, and I was still willing to give it a shot because my wife, Mary, obviously wasn't going to be the one to go striping parking lots right off the bat, right? You kind of need to do that to get it going. At some point, you don't have to do that anymore, but to get going, you're going to be that person. And that's okay for some people. But for me personally, Ray kind of gave me a tough talk. He said, we have a plan. Stick with your plan. What are you doing? And at that point, that's when I realized, man, he's right. I got to back off. This isn't right for us. You kind of start to feel the pressure. You feel like you're about to lose it. And chances are the Territories are probably going already because it was a hot franchise at the time and probably still is. But I just realized, you know what? I got to let it go. I don't have the time for this. This is not going to end well if I try and have a full-time job and do this at the same time. And that's when I realized, when the light bulb went off, that we have to focus. We have to put the focus on Mary having the full-time piece of this and me supporting her in the background. If we wouldn't have done that and I went down the Strapper road, I truly believe either I wouldn't have one of them. I wouldn't have my job or I wouldn't have the Striper one way or another. So yeah, so I think stick with make a plan, know what you are, know what your limits are, know who you are, what can you try and do, what's your skill set, what do you want to do, make a plan. And obviously it's going to change over time, but don't get confused throughout that due diligence process with the franchise itself. Don't get fooled by what all the promises are. Just realize, end of the day, you have a plan. Does it fit? And if not, don't be afraid to start from scratch and move on.
That was great. For a moment there, when you said like I wouldn't have a job or I wouldn't have Striper, I thought you were gonna say, and I wouldn't have a wife potentially. So we
Yeah,
made this decision.
with the wrong decision, that kind of pressure. Look, and don't get me wrong, it's the payoff's going to be great. We know that. We made some sacrifices. We know it's going to be a lot of time. We told our kids that. We said, look, Dad hasn't been working. I'm on the computer till late at night sometimes, right? But we knew that the sacrifice up front would be worth the payoff eventually. But if I was also strapping parking lots at 4 o'clock in the morning, it'd be tough. And don't get me wrong, a lot of people, it's the right model for some people. It just wasn't. Ray's definitely knowledgeable. He has the right connection. He's been doing it a long time. And the one thing you're going to get out of Ray that you may not get out of other people is that he's going to shoot you straight. You get this feeling that he has this unbiased feedback. Genuinely, he says it up front. He says, I'm genuinely working for you. I want to make sure that you're the right fit for this franchise and vice versa. What he doesn't want is to have a bad fit because obviously it looks bad on everybody at that point, right? So, he says it. A lot of people say things like that, but I always trusted that he genuinely meant it. He was always looking out for our best interests. He told us to walk away from stuff. He's never had us fully committed to anything. He would line up as many meetings with franchise companies as we wanted to. And he had no issues telling us to, stick with our guns and go down or walk away. And he would handle it if, there's a couple of situations where it probably got a little tough because we went far into it, decided it wasn't for us. And he handled everything for us. And he was a real supportive guy. If you needed to ever pick anything off of him, he was always there with good advice and never really pressured you or pushed you down a road that you either didn't want to be on or you shouldn't be going down. And that's all you really need in that, right? If up front, yeah, he aligns all your background and all that with an investment levels with different opportunities, right? So that's that part of it. He understands who you are, but I think the true value of Ray is just knowing that he lets you talk it out, what's going on. He'll give you advice that sometimes that I usually needed to be able to redirect or go down a different course. So I think for him is just the experience that he has and watching so many people go through this. He kind of has a feel for what, who's who and what's what and what the next move should be.